They say there is a lake, somewhere, so ancient that even the stars have forgotten its name. A silent lake, bordered by red sand, golden reeds, and stories too old for books. There, every stone knows a secret, every tree carries a memory. Among those memories, there is one that the elders still whisper to children by the firelight. The story of a girl who never spoke, and of a bird that fell from the sky. The story of Yele and the shadow of the lake. The sun rose slowly over Lake Emba. A soft, golden light stretched across the calm waters, brushing over the damp reeds and sleeping canoes. Everything seemed frozen in perfect serenity, as if the world were holding its breath. On the lake's edge, on a small rocky outcrop, a figure appeared every morning before the village awakened. It was Yele. Yele did not speak. She never had. She had learned to live in silence, to listen with her eyes, to speak with her hands, her gestures, her heart. She had no family left. Her parents had been taken by the Great Flood years ago. Since then, she lived alone in a bamboo and tin hut, slightly away from the village, near the rocks. The children said it was the spirit house. She said nothing. She spent her days walking the shores, collecting washed-up objects, watching birds. Most of all, she loved to listen to the whispers of water, the rustle of wind in the leaves, the glide of boats across the lake's mirror. That morning, the lake seemed even more silent. Not a ripple on its surface, not a bird call, just a strange vibration in the air. Yele sensed something, a tension, an expectation. Then she heard it, a cry. Distant, hoarse, like a groan torn from the belly of the world. It wasn't like any bird, nor was it human. Yele froze, her senses alert. The cry came again, fainter now, broken. She set her basket on a rock and ran into the tall grasses, her bare feet brushing the damp earth silently. Something was calling. Something needed her. The tall grasses rustled gently beneath her steps. She moved carefully, arms slightly raised, attentive to every sound, every movement. The cry had stopped. Only the wind remained to guide her. Still, she knew it was there, somewhere. Then she saw it. Nestled among a tangle of reeds flattened by the wind lay a dark form, motionless. What she had taken for a fallen log was, in fact, a bird. But not just any bird. It was enormous. Even with folded wings, its span rivaled Yele's height. Its black feathers shimmered like ink and smoke. One wing hung at an unnatural angle. A bloodied leg dripped into the warm water between the reeds. Its eyes, however, were clear, two amber stones that stared at Yele without fear, without hate, only pain. She knelt. The bird let out a low growl, guttural, almost human. She did not move. Slowly, she extended her hand, palm open. She didn't know what she was doing, but her heart did. The bird's breath was shallow. It blinked, then closed its eyes. Yele moved closer. She took a strip of cloth she always carried. She cleaned the wound with clean water and wrapped it as gently as she could. The bird didn't move. It trembled, but it breathed. When she finished, she sat back. The bird opened its eyes and stared at her. No words were exchanged. There never were. But something had been born. A silent bond. She returned the next day, and the next. Each time she brought fish, water, healing herbs. She spoke with her hands, her movements, her gaze. The bird seemed to understand. Sometimes it nodded. Sometimes it growled softly. She gave him a name, Aiku. Time flowed gently, like the calm waters of the lake. Aiku healed slowly. His wing remained fragile, but he stood straighter. He followed Yele with attentive eyes. He began to move, to stretch his great wings, to glide over short distances. Sometimes Yele would bring him shells. One day, she offered him a small pink shell she had found on the shore. Aiku took it in his beak, looked at it for a long time, then placed it back in her palm. gently, as if to say, "I remember." They invented rituals, silent games. When Yele washed her clothes by the water, Aiku dipped his beak, making circles. When she fished, he would skim the surface of the lake, guiding the fish toward her net. At night, he no longer returned to the reeds. He slept near her hut, beneath a tree, always close. Sometimes, Yele would lie beside him, her head resting against his flank, her fingers buried in the softness of his feathers. Aiku would half close his eyes, his breath deep and steady. No one else came. The world had shrunk to 2 silhouettes at the water's edge. The village of Maba lived by the rhythm of the lake. People fished, cooked, laughed, sang. But lately, unease stirred. Children claimed to have seen a shadow near the rocks. A giant bird. An omen, said some. A demon, whispered others. Rumors spread like wildfire in dry grass. Yele no longer came to the market. She no longer waved from afar. Some said the bird had taken her, others that she had become one with it. One evening, the village elders gathered near the sacred fire. Old Mabedi's voice was grave. "We do not know what that creature is, but what is not from here often brings misfortune. Some mentioned poor harvests, fewer fish in the nets, a fever among children. The signs, they said, never lied. They made a decision. At dawn, they would go. They would find the beast. They would judge it. And if the lake needed a sacrifice, they would offer the shadow." That night, no one in Maba slept. Torches burned longer than usual. Whispered words turned to fearful murmurs. Men sharpened spears. Mothers held children close. At first light, a group of villagers walked toward Yele's hut. She saw them coming from the promontory. Her heart stopped. Aiku stirred under the tree. They had no mercy. Despite her pleading gestures, despite the birds' pained cries, they threw nets. Aiku fought, flapping his wings, scratching, but he was alone, and still wounded. They bound him, dragged him to the village square. Yele followed, empty-eyed. Her hands trembled. Her breath came short. No one looked at her. No one listened. In the square, they tied Aiku to a post. He did not struggle anymore. His golden eye sought Yele's. She knelt before him, forehead resting on his feathers. Silent tears. The villagers formed a circle. Mabedi raised a torch. "If you are a demon, let the flames reveal you. If you are pure, let the lake weep for you." Silence fell. Then Aiku cried out. A sound so deep, so vast, it shook the air. It was not animal. It was memory, pain, love. It echoed across the water, into the mountains, into bellies and chests. Then the wind rose, a breeze, then a gust. The torches went out. The sky darkened. A cloud of black birds appeared on the horizon. They swirled above the square, silent. 3 circles above Aiku, then vanished. And then, the rain fell. Software, warm, gentle. Aiku collapsed. Yele held him. No one spoke. That day, the lake washed away the fire, but not the guilt. The next morning, the village woke under a pale sky. Mist drifted over the lake. The bird songs had returned, but they sounded different, deeper, distant. Aiku still lay in the center of the square. His soaked feathers glistened under the drops. Around him, no one approached. Even the bravest kept their distance. Yele had stayed all night, her arms around him, her face dry, her gaze hollow. Mabedi approached, slowly. "He deserves a burial," he said. For the first time in years, the village moved together, in silence. Men brought a woven stretcher, women brought white cloth, children picked wildflowers. They carried Aiku to the promontory, where it had all begun. Yele led them, head high, steps slow. She seemed carved from stone and wind. They dug beneath a great silk cotton tree, laid the bird down with reverence. Yele placed the pink shell between his wings, then they covered him with earth. No one spoke, but all in silence understood what they had lost. That night, the lake was stiller than ever. And in the villagers' dreams, a black bird with golden eyes flew silently above the water. The days that followed were filled with silence and slowness. The village seemed to walk on tiptoe, as if each sound might break something fragile. The children no longer ran. The men spoke in hushed tones. The women cooked without singing. Yele stayed near the grave. She came each morning, placed a flower, a shell, or simply sat. She still didn't speak, but her gestures had changed. They were no longer of grief, but of memory. She kept alive what others had tried to erase. One day, a small boy approached her. He held a pebble in his hand. Without a word, he laid it beside the grave, then sat next to her. She did not look at him, but her shoulder relaxed slightly. The next day, there were 2, then 3, then 10. They didn't ask questions. They came, sat, listened to the silence. And in that silence, Yele told stories. With her gestures, her quiet smiles, her glances at the sky. She taught them how to read the wind, to follow tracks, to hear the stories hidden in the trees. The elders watched from afar. One morning, old Mabedi came to the promontory. He stood for a long time, arms crossed, then traced a circle of stones around the grave. "Let this place become memory," he said, "and forgiveness." A small baobab was planted beside it. Yele watered it every day. The tree took root, like a promise. Slowly, the villagers returned to her. A woman brought her a woven blanket. A man, a basket of mangoes. The children invited her to play. She did not return to the heart of the village, but the village slowly came to her. The lake, too, seemed changed. The water, clearer. The fish, more plentiful. The nets, fuller. Some said Aiku had calmed the lake spirits, that his cry had swept away fear. One evening, as the sky turned pink and gold, a flock of black birds flew over the promontory. Yele lifted her eyes and smiled. Even the wind seemed to forgive. The seasons passed. The baobab grew, stretching its thick arms toward the sky. Its shadow each day covered more of Aiku's grave. They now called it the Tree of Silence. Yele still lived by the lake, in her modest hut. She hadn't changed anything, but everything around her had changed. No one called her the mute girl anymore. They simply said, Yele. And everyone knew what the name meant. Children came to learn from her. She showed them how to pick without hurting, how to listen to stones, how to speak to the wind without sound. Sometimes she told the story of a great bird who fell from the sky. She never said his name, but all recognized him. One day, a traveler from another village asked, "Who is this woman the children listen to without speaking?" Old Mabedi replied, "She saw the shadow and did not chase it away. She loved what we feared." The promontory had become a place of passage. Fishermen sometimes left an offering, a feather, a bead, a handful of rice. The stone circle was maintained, and each evening the lake shone with a strange light, like a silent thank you. Sometimes, when the wind blew through the trees, one could hear a wing beat, a soft, dark murmur, like an ancient breath. One night, Yele had a dream. She was a child again, but wings of ink grew from her back. She flew over the lake, free and light, her hair in the wind, arms reaching toward the sky. Aiku flew beside her, immense, majestic. He did not lead, he followed. When she woke, her heart beat fast. She knew then that this dream was goodbye. Yele was not old, but she had grown old. The silence within her had taken root like a tree. A gentle silence, deep, born of love. One evening, as the sun slowly set, she climbed the promontory. She sat beneath the baobab, as she often did. She closed her eyes. The wind rose, it danced in the leaves, it brushed her skin like a caress. She raised her arms, slowly, as if to take flight, and in the sky, far away, a black dot appeared. It spiraled gently, brushed the lake's surface, then soared back toward the clouds. Yele smiled. She did not move again. She had become, in her turn, a shadow of the lake. Many years later, around a crackling fire in the heart of the village, the children gather each evening. It has become a tradition, a flame that never dies, even when the elders are gone. That evening, it is Imani, the eldest of the children, who speaks. She sits cross-legged, eyes bright in the firelight, hands resting on her knees. The others fall silent. "You know the story," she says, "but I will tell it as Yele showed me. Without words, with the images she placed in our hearts." She closes her eyes for a moment, then continues. "There was a girl who did not speak, a girl who listened to the wind, the trees, the water, a girl no one understood, until a bird fell from the sky. The children hold their breath. They know every detail, but they want to hear it again. The song without music, the dance without steps, Aiku's cry, the circle of stones, the baobab. This bird was made of shadow and light," continues Imani. "It carried a secret in its eyes and a wound in its wing. It did not come to stay. It came to remember. Around them, the elders listened too. Silently, some close their eyes. Others watch the flames. Old Mabedi, very bent now, smiles faintly. Yele loved him," says Imani, "and because she loved him, we learned to see what eyes alone cannot. Now, when the wind blows over the lake, listen closely. It carries their story. And if you close your eyes..." She stops. The children imitate her. A breeze passes softly, stirring hair, leaves, even the flame. No one speaks. No one dares break the spell. Imani opens her eyes. "You will hear them flying,